My name is Chloe, and I'm 35 years old. My family just informed me I was no longer welcome at Thanksgiving dinner, all because they said my divorce would be an embarrassment. So I took their advice and decided to start my own traditions, beginning with an incredible feast for 32 guests at my new multi-million-dollar estate. When the photos of our celebration went viral, well, let's just say my phone has been ringing off the hook ever since. Where are you tuning in from today? Let me know your city in the comments, and please hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever been made to feel like the outcast in your own family. You're definitely going to want to see how this all played out. This whole saga really kicked off about 18 months ago, though I couldn't see the full picture at the time. I was in the middle of my usual Wednesday night, trying to ignore a string of passive-aggressive texts from my mother, when my phone rang. It was her, and she had a Thanksgiving ultimatum. "Chloe, we should talk about the Thanksgiving plans," she began, using the same detached tone she uses to discuss things like plumbing issues or roof repairs. "Your father and I have been discussing it, and we feel it would be for the best if you didn't attend this year." I almost spat out my glass of wine. "Didn't attend? Mom, it's Thanksgiving, not a corporate team building exercise I can just skip." "There's no need for that tone, Chloe. It's just, with everything going on, your divorce and all of that, it would just create an awkward atmosphere for the rest of the family. The Walkers are coming, and you know how they gossip. Plus, your cousin Jessica just got engaged to that wonderful surgeon. We don't want your situation casting a pall over her good news, my situation." She said it as if my ex-husband, Leo, deciding to have an affair with his hygienist was some trendy lifestyle choice I'd made, specifically to ruin holiday gatherings. "Mom, I'm not a disease. Divorce isn't airborne. You can't catch it from the gravy boat. Sarcasm doesn't help, Chloe. We are just thinking of what's best for the collective. Perhaps you could take the children somewhere lovely. You could make your own new traditions. Maybe a trip to Orlando? The children." My 9-year-old Mia and 7-year-old Noah, who had been bubbling with excitement about seeing their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, and their cousins. The same children who had already made a flock of construction paper turkeys at school, earmarked specifically for Grandma Eleanor's refrigerator. "And what am I supposed to tell Mia and Noah?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. "Tell them Mommy is doing something extra special, just the three of you." "They're young, Chloe. They'll get over it." No, what they would understand is that Grandma and Grandpa had blacklisted them because their mommy had failed to keep a man. I could already see the heartbreak and confusion on Mia's face as I tried to explain why we were suddenly persona non grata at the one family dinner she'd been counting down to for weeks. "This is just unbelievable, Mom. I am your daughter." "Of course you are, dear. And that's precisely why we're trying to spare you from a very uncomfortable day. People will ask questions. They'll want to know all the sordid details about the divorce. It's really better this way." Better for who exactly, I wondered? It certainly wasn't better for me, picturing myself sitting alone with my kids, while the rest of them gathered around the very same dining table where I'd celebrated every single Thanksgiving of my 35 years. But here's the little secret my mother didn't know, what none of them knew. The negotiations for the divorce settlement were wrapping up, and Leo's pathetic attempts to squirrel away his assets had backfired spectacularly. My lawyer had been painstakingly piecing together his financial treachery for over a year, and the discoveries made by her forensic accountant were proving to be very, very lucrative. That quaint 3-bedroom suburban house we once shared was about to look like a distant memory. Let me take you back and show you how this whole train wreck began. Because the timeline is everything, and believe me, it gets a whole lot worse before it gets glorious. 15 months ago, I was still Chloe Thompson, a devoted wife and mother, living a life of quiet desperation in our modest home in a Boston suburb, blissfully unaware that my husband had been performing extracurricular activities in his dental office. I stumbled upon Leo's affair the way so many spouses do, a series of small, unsettling clues combined with that gut feeling that something was deeply wrong. He was suddenly working late almost every night. He was attending weekend dental conferences that a quick Google search revealed didn't exist. His phone, once left casually on the counter, now had a strict face down at all times policy, and his evening shower routine had bizarrely expanded to include dousing himself in expensive cologne at 9 o'clock at night. The final, undeniable proof came when Mia's retainer needed a slight adjustment, and I decided, on a whim, to surprise Leo with lunch at his practice. I'd done it countless times before, usually with a heads-up call, but on that particular day, I felt a desperate need for a spark, something spontaneous to jolt our marriage out of its comfortable, monotonous rut. I breezed into the office reception holding a bag of takeout from his favorite sushi place, fully expecting to find him hunched over patient files. Instead, I found him hunched over his dental hygienist, Tiffany, a 23-year-old with platinum extensions and a surprising degree of flexibility, judging by the contortionist act they were performing on his main examination chair. They were so absorbed in their procedure that neither of them saw me standing in the doorway clutching a bag of spicy tuna rolls that suddenly seemed revolting. I was frozen there for what felt like an eternity, but was likely only a few seconds, just watching my husband demonstrate a technique that was definitely not covered in his dental school curriculum. Then I did something that even I didn't see coming. I didn't scream. I didn't hurl the sushi at them. I didn't give them the satisfaction of a dramatic movie-style confrontation. I just calmly pulled out my smartphone and hit record. "Please don't stop for me," I said, my voice eerily steady. They finally noticed me and sprang apart. I'm sure your patients would be thrilled to see this level of personalized, hands-on care. Leo scrambled off of Tiffany so clumsily he nearly toppled the entire chair. "Chloe, this isn't what it looks like," he stammered. "Really? Because from where I'm standing, it looks an awful lot like you're conducting an oral exam without wearing gloves, which I'm fairly certain violates a number of state health codes." I kept the camera rolling as Tiffany frantically tried to pull her scrubs back into place, and Leo struggled with his trousers. "Should I forward this video to the state dental board, or would you rather explain it to them in person?" That's when Leo's real character emerged. There was no apology, no begging for forgiveness, just pure, unadulterated rage. "This wouldn't have happened if you hadn't just shown up unannounced," he hissed. "Ah, of course. My mistake. I'll be sure to schedule my spousal pop-ins in advance next time. How terribly thoughtless of me. You know what I mean. You've been so distant, always exhausted, always wrapped up in the kids. A man has needs, Chloe." And there it was, straight from page 1 of the Cheater's Handbook. Somehow, his inability to keep his dental equipment zipped up was my fault as a wife. As I turned to walk away, Tiffany, bless her heart, finally found her voice. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm so sorry. This wasn't planned. It just happened." I looked at this young woman who had just detonated my entire life and felt a bizarre pang of pity. "Honey, you're not the first and you won't be the last. But hey, congratulations, you just won the grand prize. You get to find out exactly what kind of man Leo really is." Little did I know I was about to find out myself, and it was infinitely worse than just a cheating husband. You would think that catching your husband red-handed would earn you a shred of sympathy from your own family, wouldn't you? Wrong. In the Thompson family rulebook, apparently, adultery is a minor infraction compared to the cardinal sin of disrupting social harmony. The moment I left Leo's office, I called my mother, my hands shaking, desperate for someone to validate my sense of betrayal. "Mom, I just caught Leo with his hygienist, in his office, on the dental chair." There was a long, cold silence on the other end. "Oh, Chloe, are you certain it wasn't just some sort of misunderstanding? Unless French kissing is now part of a standard dental cleaning. I'm pretty sure, Mom, don't be crass, dear. These things can happen in a long marriage. The crucial thing is to work through it. Work through it." As if his infidelity was a leaky faucet that just required a bit of patience and a good wrench. "Mom, he was cheating on me with an employee in his place of business. Marriage is a commitment, Chloe. Sometimes people make mistakes, especially when they feel unappreciated or neglected at home. Without even hearing a single word from Leo, my own mother had already appointed me the villain of the story. So I'm supposed to just forgive and forget. I'm saying you need to think of Mia and Noah before you do anything drastic. Children need a stable home, not a broken one, a stable home, where daddy cheats on mommy and mommy smiles through her tears, where children learn that love means tolerating disrespect and that a woman's worth is tied to her ability to keep a household intact, no matter the personal cost. My father's reaction was just as disheartening. When I arrived at their house later that evening with the kids, needing a place to stay while I figured out my next step, he pulled me into his study. "Chloe, I've always had a lot of respect for Leo. He's a good provider. He's steady. All marriages hit rough patches. This isn't a rough patch, Dad. This is adultery. That's a very inflammatory word. Look, I get that you're hurt, but a divorce? That's a permanent stain. It affects your reputation, your children's future, my reputation, not my happiness, not my self-worth, not the example I was setting for my daughter and son, my reputation in a community where, apparently, being a divorced woman was a greater sin than being a cheated-on wife. What about Leo's reputation? Shouldn't cheating on his wife affect that? Men are wired differently, Chloe. They make different kinds of mistakes. Society is more forgiving. But a divorced woman, especially one with children, that's a much harder road to walk." My brother Daniel's response was the most infuriating of all. "Chloe, you've got to be practical about this. Leo makes fantastic money. He provides your health insurance. He has a thriving business. Are you really going to throw all of that away over one mistake?" "One that I know of," I muttered. "Even if there were others. Is it really worth blowing up your entire family? Mia and Noah need their father. They need financial security and a two-parent home. You've been out of the workforce for almost a decade. What are you going to do? Support 2 kids on some part-time job?" That was the moment it crystallized for me. My family didn't see me as their daughter or their sister. They saw me as a liability, a woman whose entire value was measured by her marital status. Have you ever felt like the very people who should be in your corner are secretly hoping you'll fail? Drop a comment below if you've ever had family prioritize appearances over your own happiness. What they didn't know was that their liability was already on the phone with Isabel Vance, one of the most feared divorce attorneys in the state. And Isabel had some very, very interesting questions about Leo's financial records. 6 months into the divorce proceedings, I learned something truly fascinating about my husband's business ethics. Remember how my family kept going on and on about what a good provider he was? Well, it turned out he was providing for a lot more than we knew, just not for his own family. My lawyer, Isabel Vance, was the kind of woman who wore sharp suits like a suit of armor and had built a legendary career by dismantling the financial schemes of cheating husbands. "Chloe," she told me, "your husband has been exceptionally creative with his accounting. We're going to have to bring in the big guns." Leo had been trying to argue that his dental practice was in a slump, that he could barely scrape together a reasonable child support payment. But Isabel's forensic accountant, a bloodhound we hired after months of stonewalling and suspicious documents, started uncovering some very interesting patterns. Equipment purchases that are massively inflated, Isabel listed off. Catered business lunches on weekends that cost thousands, and rent payments to a shell corporation that doesn't actually exist. When we finally presented our evidence during mediation, Leo's smug, condescending attitude vanished. His own lawyer looked like he had aged 20 years in the span of our presentation. "These accusations are baseless," Leo blustered. "I've been completely transparent with my finances." Isabel just smiled and slid a bank statement across the polished mahogany table. "Then perhaps you can clarify this series of 6-figure transfers to an account in Bermuda?" Leo's face went a pasty shade of white. "Those are legitimate business investments." "In what business?" "Because according to the documents we've subpoenaed, these accounts look like they were designed for one purpose and one purpose only, to hide marital assets from your wife." The mediation, which Leo had assumed would end with him paying a pittance and keeping his fortune, morphed into a very different negotiation. By the end of that marathon session, I was looking at a settlement that included 50% of every single dollar he had tried to hide, plus punitive damages for his blatant attempts at financial fraud. But the real moment of triumph came when Isabel handed me a folder labeled Real Estate Assessments. Your settlement, Chloe, will be enough for a very substantial down payment on a very, very nice home. The kind of home that sends a clear message about your independence. Over the next few weeks, I dedicated myself to house hunting in some of Boston's most exclusive suburbs. Not because I craved a mansion, but because I wanted Leo and my family to have a tangible, unavoidable symbol of just how colossally they had misjudged me. The house I found was perfect. A sprawling contemporary colonial on 2 acres of land. 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, a chef's kitchen that belonged on a cooking show, and a backyard with a pool that made the local country club look modest. It was the kind of house my family could never have imagined me owning on my own. When I put in the offer, I used my maiden name for the first time in over a decade, Chloe Peterson. It felt like shedding a skin that had never quite fit. The sellers accepted my offer immediately. With a huge down payment and my newly pristine credit, I closed in less than 6 weeks. As I signed the final documents, I couldn't help but grin, imagining Leo's face when he found out where his secret Bermuda fund had ended up. But I had no idea that his financial deceptions were only the beginning. Moving into my new home felt like stepping into an alternate reality, a life I was always meant to lead. The previous owners had been interior designers, and they'd left most of the stunning furniture as part of the sale. So within 2 months of closing, I was living in a home that looked like it had been torn from the pages of a design magazine. Mia and Noah adapted with the breathtaking resilience of children. Mia immediately claimed the bedroom with the built-in window seat overlooking the sprawling gardens, while Noah chose the one with a perfect view of the pool. Their sheer joy was contagious, and for the first time in over a year, I felt a profound, uncomplicated sense of happiness. But the absolute best part wasn't the house itself. It was the look on Leo's face when he drove up for his first visitation pickup at my new address. His BMW, which used to seem so impressive, looked like a compact car in my sweeping circular driveway. "Quite an upgrade," he said, the bitterness dripping from his words. "The divorce settlement was very generous," I replied with a cheerful, sunny smile. "Thanks again for making it all possible." He looked like he wanted to say more, but the kids were already sprinting towards his car, babbling excitedly about their new rooms and the pool they'd been swimming in all summer. That's when I started to hatch my plan for Thanksgiving. If my family thought I was going to spend the holiday wallowing in self-pity, they were in for a major disappointment. I called my friend Jessica first. We had drifted apart during my marriage, but she'd been one of the first to reach out after the divorce, offering unwavering support and zero judgment. "Jess, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?" "Oh, the usual madhouse at my sister's." "Why?" "Cancel it. You're coming to my place instead. I'm hosting a real Thanksgiving this year." "You're hosting? Chloe, that's amazing. Of course, I'll be there." Next, I called my old college roommate, Sarah, who was living in San Francisco and was facing a lonely Thanksgiving since her kids were with their dad. "Pack a bag," I told her. "You're flying to Boston." I called my neighbor, Mrs. Gable, a delightful 78-year-old widow who lived in the estate next door. She had been the soul of kindness when I moved in, bringing me homemade scones and offering to help in any way she could. "Mrs. Gable, I'm hosting a Thanksgiving dinner, and I would be so honored if you would join us." "Oh, my dear, that's so lovely, but I wouldn't want to intrude on your family celebration." "You wouldn't be intruding. You would be the guest of honor." One by one, I invited people who had shown me kindness, people who deserved to be celebrated. My hairdresser, Maria, who was working through the holidays to support her family. The barista from my local coffee shop, Kevin, who was dreading his first holiday after coming out to his unsupportive family. my children's teachers who worked miracles every day for very little recognition. Within 2 weeks, I had 32 confirmed guests for Thanksgiving dinner. A beautiful, eclectic mix of people who understood what loyalty and kindness truly meant, a chosen family. I hired a top-tier caterer, ordered cases of fine wine, and even booked a professional photographer to document the event. The menu was a glorious rebellion against my mother's bland, traditional Thanksgiving. We had a heritage turkey with a wild mushroom and truffle stuffing, a maple bourbon glazed ham, lobster mac and cheese, exotic roasted root vegetables, and a dessert spread that could rival a Parisian patisserie. The night before Thanksgiving, as I was placing the last touches on the tablescapes, my phone rang. It was my sister, Sophia. "Chloe, Mom told me you're having some sort of dinner party tomorrow. It sounds nice." "It's not a party, Sophia. It's Thanksgiving dinner, with people who actually want to spend it with me. Look, I know you're upset about Mom and Dad's, but maybe this is a good thing. A fresh start. Maybe after tomorrow we can all get together and figure things out. Figure things out." As if their ostracism of me and my children was just a simple scheduling misunderstanding. "Sophia, there's nothing to figure out. You all made your position crystal clear." But as I hung up, I knew she was right about one thing. Tomorrow was absolutely going to be a fresh start. Thanksgiving morning arrived crisp and bright, a perfect New England autumn day. I woke up early, filled not with dread, but with a giddy sense of anticipation. Mia and Noah, my little event planning assistants, helped me set the tables, carefully folding napkins and arranging place cards. They were so thrilled about our special Thanksgiving that they had made their own decorations and written personal thank you notes for every single guest. "Mommy, this is the best Thanksgiving ever," Mia declared, adjusting the floral centerpiece for the 4th time. "I think you're right, sweetie." The caterers arrived at noon, and my kitchen was transformed into a buzzing professional operation. The photographer showed up early to capture the preparations, and soon my house was filled with the sounds of clinking glasses and the incredible aromas of a true feast. Guests started to arrive at 3 o'clock, and the energy was instantly and palpably different from any family holiday I had ever known. These were people who had chosen to be here, people who were genuinely happy for the invitation, who walked in with smiles of joy, not sighs of obligation. Mrs. Gable was the first to arrive, dressed in a beautiful tweed suit and carrying a bottle of champagne that probably cost more than my weekly food budget. "My dear, this home is simply breathtaking," she said, giving me a warm kiss on the cheek. "You've built something truly wonderful here." Sarah, my roommate, flew in from the West Coast, and we shrieked like college kids when she walked through the door. Jessica brought her elderly mother, who had been widowed the previous year and was facing her first holiday alone. Kevin, the barista, arrived with his wonderful new boyfriend, both of them beaming, finally somewhere they were celebrated, not just tolerated. Maria, my hairdresser, brought her 3 kids, who immediately bonded with Mia and Noah, disappearing into the backyard to explore the playground. The teachers I'd invited looked around in awe, joking that this was a significant step up from the usual faculty potluck. As we all gathered around my dining room table, which I had extended with 2 additional tables to fit everyone, I was overcome with a warmth I had never felt at my parents' house. These people were here because we had built connections based on mutual respect and genuine care. When it came time for us to share what we were grateful for, the answers were deeply personal and heartfelt. Mrs. Gable was grateful for new neighbors who had become like family. Sarah was grateful for friendships that could span a continent and a decade. Kevin was grateful for finding a community that embraced love in all its forms. When it was my turn, I looked around the table at all these amazing people, sharing this incredible meal in my magnificent home. "I am grateful," I said, my voice thick with emotion, "for the courage to build a life that is truly my own, based on my values, not on other people's expectations." The photographer captured it all. The laughter that echoed through the house, the children playing together, the easy, authentic connections forming between people who had started the day as strangers and were ending it as friends. By the end of the evening, I had a digital album documenting what a real celebration of gratitude looked like. As the last of the guests departed, thanking me profusely for one of the best Thanksgivings they'd ever had, I uploaded the photos. Not as an act of spite, but as an act of pride. The reaction was instantaneous. Comments flooded in from friends, acquaintances, and even strangers who had seen the photos shared by my guests. "This is stunning. What a beautiful, joyful celebration. Chloe, you are thriving." But the reactions I was truly waiting for started rolling in around 9 p.m. First, it was my brother, Daniel. "Chloe, saw your pictures. That looked like quite the production." "It was wonderful," I said. "It's amazing what happens when you fill a room with people who are happy to be there." Then, Sophia called, "Your dinner looked gorgeous. So elegant. Thank you. Maybe next year we could, combine our celebrations. Next year." As if they would automatically be back on the guest list after this year's stunt. But the call I was anticipating came at nearly 11 p.m. It was my mother. Her voice wound tight with an emotion I couldn't quite place. "Chloe, I saw your photographs on the internet. That was quite an elaborate affair." "Yes, it was lovely. We had 32 guests. Everyone had a wonderful time." 32 people? That's more than we had at our dinner. I just wanted to make sure that everyone who deserved to feel celebrated was included. There was a long, tense pause. "I hope you realize that this little display has embarrassed the entire family. The Walkers saw your photos. Jessica's new in-laws saw them. Now everyone is talking about how you deliberately excluded your own family." And there it was, the truth. They weren't upset that I had been left out. They were enraged that I had succeeded without them. But as I hung up the phone and looked around my beautiful, now quiet house, I had a powerful realization. For the first time in my entire life, I truly did not care what they thought. And that feeling of liberation was about to become more important than I could ever imagine. The fallout from my Thanksgiving feast was even more gratifying than the event itself. Within weeks, I was getting calls and messages from people I hadn't heard from in years, all of them suddenly desperate to reconnect with their dear friend Chloe. Distant relatives who had somehow tracked down my new number sent long, rambling texts about the importance of family sticking together. Aunt Patty, my father's sister, who had spent years openly criticizing my choice to be a stay-at-home mom, left a series of gushing voicemails praising my entrepreneurial spirit and wondering if I'd be interested in investing in her son's tech startup. The most laughable attempt came from my former sister-in-law, Leo's sister Rachel, who had been conspicuously silent during my entire divorce. She appeared on my doorstep unannounced on a Saturday morning, clutching a store-bought coffee cake and flashing her most practiced apologetic smile. "Chloe, I've been meaning to call. I just feel so awful about how everything went down with Leo. Do you?" I asked, not moving to let her inside, because I seem to recall you telling everyone at your book club that I was probably cheating too, and that Leo was the real victim. "I was just trying to stay neutral," she stammered. "You know how it is, family loyalty. Family loyalty. The same loyalty that had led her to forbid her son from playing with mine, declaring that Jake was not to set foot in that woman's house. That's interesting timing, Rachel. What brings you here now?" She fidgeted uncomfortably. "I just think life is too short to hold on to grudges. Life is too short, or my bank account is too big." I suspected the latter, especially when she casually mentioned how absolutely gorgeous my house looked in the Thanksgiving photos. But the real show came from my immediate family, whose attempts to mend the fence they'd torched became increasingly desperate. My mother, Eleanor, started sending lavish care packages for the kids, giant gift baskets filled with toys and sweets, accompanied by notes about how much Grandma misses her grandbabies. Daniel began inviting me to family gatherings I had never been included in before. "We're having a small dinner party next weekend, just close family. You should come. Bring the kids." "A dinner party? How novel of you to include me in your social plans. Chloe, you're my sister. Of course I want you there. My sister." The same sister he had advised to just be practical and accept her husband's infidelity because a divorce would be financially inconvenient. My father took to showing up at my house unannounced, claiming he was just in the neighborhood. Considering my neighborhood was a 40-minute drive and 2 tolls away from his frequent appearances were anything but casual. "Chloe, I've been thinking a lot about Thanksgiving," he said during one of these surprise visits. "Have you?" "I think there was a misunderstanding. Your mother was just worried about the gossip. She never intended to permanently exclude you." Permanently. As if a temporary exclusion had been a perfectly reasonable thing to do. "Dad, what is it you actually want? I want my family back. I want Mia and Noah to know their grandparents. I want us to be a family again. We could have been a family when I was going through my divorce. We could have been a family when I needed your support. You weren't interested then." "We made a mistake, Chloe. Can't we move past it? Move past it. Just skip right over the part where they left me to drown and fast forward to the part where they get to enjoy the benefits of my survival." That evening, after my father left empty-handed yet again, I understood something critical. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry for the consequences. There is a vast difference between regret and remorse, and my family was drowning in the former while showing no signs of the latter. What do you think is going to happen next? Drop your predictions in the comments. January brought an unforeseen complication to my newly curated life. His name was Alex Montgomery, and he was everything I didn't even know I was missing. We met at Mia's school winter concert. I was sitting in the auditorium trying to get a non-blurry photo of my daughter on stage when the man next to me leaned over during an intermission. "Excuse me, are you Mia Peterson's mom? I'm Alex, Lily Montgomery's dad. Our daughters are in the same class." I took a proper look at him for the first time. He was tall, with salt and pepper hair, a smile that was genuinely warm, and an easy confidence that had nothing to do with arrogance. Lily was the quiet, sweet girl Mia had recently befriended. "Yes, I'm Chloe. Mia talks about Lily all the time. The feeling is mutual. She's been asking non-stop when she can come over to see Mia's new house with the pool. Apparently Mia's been giving very detailed descriptions during art class." He chuckled. "Lily came home asking if we could install a movie theater in our basement." I laughed. Mia has a flair for the dramatic. We have a large TV in the family room, which in her mind qualifies as a private cinema. After the concert, as we were walking out, Alex asked if I'd be open to setting up that playdate. "Maybe this weekend? I could drop Lily off, or they could come to our place." There was no hidden agenda in his voice, just a dad trying to make his daughter happy. "Why don't you both come to our house on Saturday? The girls can test out the cinema and you can verify Mia's architectural claims." Saturday arrived and Alex showed up with Lily, a bottle of excellent wine for me, and a tin of still warm cookies. "You bake?" I asked, impressed. "Lily bakes," he corrected. "I mostly just supervise and prevent fires. She's been on a cookie craze since the holidays." "How were your holidays?" I asked. "Quiet. Lily's mom lives in Seattle now, so it was just the 2 of us. We made pancakes and watched movies. It was nice." A divorced dad, primary custody, and no bitterness in his voice when he mentioned his ex. My internal radar for red flags, which had been on high alert since Leo, found nothing. As the afternoon wore on, I found myself relaxing in a way I hadn't in years. We had an actual adult conversation that didn't once veer into my divorce, my family drama, or my finances. Alex was a veterinarian with his own local practice, deeply passionate about his work and completely unfazed by my house. "This is a beautiful home," he said as I gave him the tour, "but I have to say, the best part is seeing how happy Mia is here. She's so full of life." "You can't buy that." "Thank you. It's been an adjustment for all of us. Divorce is hard on everyone, but you're clearly doing something right." When he left that evening, he paused at the door. "Would you be interested in having dinner sometime? Just us? Somewhere Lily can't give me notes on my table manners." I said yes before I had a chance to second guess it. Our first date was supposed to be a casual bite at a local bistro, but we ended up closing the place down. talking for hours. He never once asked about my settlement, my ex-husband, or my family. Instead, we talked about books, travel, and the absurdities of parenting. I have to confess, he said as we walked to our cars, I was a little intimidated about tonight. Why? Single dad, getting back out there after a few years, meeting a woman who so clearly has it all together. It's a lot. Has it all together? Alex, 18 months ago, I was married to a cheating dentist and my entire family had disowned me. I am making this up as I go. He smiled. Well, you're a hell of an improviser. In that moment, I realized something both terrifying and wonderful. I was starting to fall for someone who saw me, the real me, not the woman with the big house or the dramatic backstory. By our third date, I knew I had to tell him about my family. Alex, there's something you should know. My family and we're not on speaking terms. Can I ask why? He listened to the entire sordid tale without a flicker of judgment. So, he summarized, they abandoned you when you needed them, and now they want back in because you're successful. That's the short version, yes. And how does that make you feel? It was such a simple question, but no one else had bothered to ask it. Disappointed, angry, but mostly relieved. I feel like I'm finally seeing them for who they are. He nodded. That makes perfect sense. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who force us to become who we were always meant to be. But my family was about to force a meeting with him much sooner than I'd planned. February brought the inevitable collision of my old life and my new one. My mother, Eleanor, had become relentlessly persistent about healing the family, which really meant finding ways to forcibly insert herself back into my life. The breaking point arrived, uninvited, at Mia's 9th birthday party. I had planned a small, happy celebration at my house, just a handful of Mia's closest friends, their parents, and of course, Alex and Lily. Pizza, cake, and pool games, since I'd had the pool heated as a special winter treat. Mia had specifically asked for a no big family drama birthday, which should have been my first sign that even a 9-year-old saw the toxic dynamic I'd been navigating for years. The party was in full swing, the house filled with the joyful chaos of children, when Eleanor's sedan pulled into my driveway. I watched from the kitchen as she emerged, carrying a gift box the size of a small appliance and wearing a smile of unshakable determination. "Chloe!" she called out, walking straight through my unlocked front door. "Surprise! I couldn't possibly miss my granddaughter's birthday." A hush fell over the living room. Mia looked confused. The other parents looked deeply uncomfortable, and Alex shot me a look that was equal parts sympathy and here we go. "Mom, this is a private party. You weren't invited." "Oh, don't be ridiculous. I'm Mia's grandmother. Of course I belong here." Mia, being a child programmed to love, ran over and gave her a hug. My mother immediately began her performance. "Mia, darling, you look beautiful. And this house, Chloe, it's even more magnificent in person than in the photographs." She'd been studying my social media like an intelligence analyst. "Grandma, this is my friend Lily, and this is Lily's daddy, Mr. Alex," Mia announced proudly. "How lovely to meet you both," Eleanor said, extending a hand to Alex with a look of shrewd calculation. "I'm Eleanor Peterson, Chloe's mother." What followed was a masterclass in social manipulation. For the next 45 minutes, Eleanor worked the room, complimenting every parent, inquiring about their children's accomplishments, and managing to drop at least 3 times how incredibly proud she was of how well Chloe was adjusting to her new circumstances. New circumstances, as if my success was a happy accident, not the result of my own resilience. The main event came when she cornered Alex in my kitchen while I was cutting the cake. "Alex, I hear you're a veterinarian. How wonderful. Chloe has always been such an animal lover. I could hear her from the dining room. She's always been so nurturing, such a wonderful mother. Mia and Noah are just thriving with her. It's been difficult, of course, with the divorce and all the upheaval, but she is handling it all with such grace. We are so incredibly proud of how she's rebuilt her life. We are so proud. The royal we of a family that had cast me out months before. Chloe is a remarkable woman, Alex replied, his voice neutral. Oh, she is. And this house, can you even believe it? From that little tract home she had with Leo to this, it's like a fairy tale. After the party ended and Mia was upstairs with her new toys, I finally confronted her. Mom, what exactly did you hope to accomplish by showing up today? I wanted to celebrate my granddaughter's birthday. Is that a crime? No, you wanted to crash my party, insert yourself back into my life, and vet my new boyfriend. New boyfriend? Chloe, I had no idea you were seeing someone. Of course, she had no idea. We didn't speak. That was her choice. His name is Alex. And his opinion of me is not based on my net worth. I never said it was. I was just proud of you. Number. You weren't proud when I left Leo. You weren't proud when I fought for myself. You are only proud now that my success reflects well on you. That's when the mask of civility finally dropped. Chloe, you are being completely unreasonable. We made a mistake, yes, but we are family. Family forgives. And now that you're doing so well, now that you've found someone, isn't it time to let this go? No, Mom, it's not. What do you want from us, Chloe? I looked at this woman, the one who had raised me, and I saw her so clearly. I want you to understand that you don't get to decide when it's convenient for you to be my family. As she left, I realized her little stunt had been a blessing in disguise. Alex had now seen the full extent of my family's dysfunction, and he hadn't run. In fact, he'd chosen to stay. March delivered a piece of news that blew everything I thought I knew about my divorce completely out of the water. My lawyer, Isabel, called on a Tuesday morning with a tone in her voice that made me sit down hard. Chloe, we need to meet in my office. Today, if you can. Isabel's office felt different this time. More tense, more serious. Files were spread across her desk, and she wore the expression of someone about to detonate a bomb. Chloe, I've been doing some follow-up on Leo's finances, post-settlement, and I found something. More hidden money? I asked. Number. Something much, much bigger. Leo's dental practice isn't just a business, it's a front for a money laundering operation. I just stared at her, the words not computing. A front for what? We're talking about millions of dollars being funneled through his business accounts. The forensic accountant flagged irregularities that went far beyond simple tax evasion. When we started digging, with some assistance from federal authorities, we uncovered a systematic, organized criminal enterprise. The room started to spin. My ex-husband, the father of my children, was a criminal. How? How did you find this? Inflated payments from offshore shell companies, massive cash deposits that had no corresponding patient records. He was washing money, Chloe, for at least 3 years. A dental practice is the perfect cover. Cash payments are common and expensive equipment purchases don't raise red flags. And Tiffany? I asked, a sick feeling in my stomach. She was in on it. Her access to the books wasn't about the affair. It was operational. She was facilitating wire transfers and communicating with his associates. I felt a wave of nausea. I realized how perilously close my children and I had come to being entangled in a federal crime. Isabel, what does this mean for me? For the settlement? Legally, you're in the clear. The divorce is final, and we can prove you had no knowledge. Every asset you received is clean. But Chloe, there's more. Of course, there was more. The FBI has been building a case against Leo for over a year. They approached me yesterday. They need your cooperation. My cooperation? What could I possibly offer? You lived with him. You might have seen or heard things, conversations, names, details that could be the missing piece of their puzzle. I thought back to all the hushed, late-night phone calls, the business trips that made no sense. What happens if I cooperate? You help put a dangerous criminal behind bars and ensure he can never endanger your children again. And if I don't? The investigation will proceed, but it will be slower. And Chloe, there's something else. I braced myself. Leo has been trying to modify your custody agreement. His lawyer filed a motion last week claiming your extravagant new lifestyle proves you're an unstable parent. The audacity was breathtaking. A man laundering money for organized crime was trying to paint me as an unfit mother because I bought a nice house with my legally won settlement. He's desperate, Isabel said, and if he's trying to get the kids, it's possible he's planning to flee. The thought of Leo disappearing with my children sent a shard of ice through my heart. That evening, I called Alex. He had become my anchor. Alex, I just found out something about Leo. I laid out the entire insane story. He listened, his expression growing more serious with each word. Chloe, he said firmly, you have to cooperate. You have to protect your kids. I know. I'm just scared. Not for me, for them. Their father is a criminal who put them at risk for years, he said, his voice full of a protective anger that soothed me. You're not destroying their family. You're saving them from a man who was never worthy of them. The next morning, I called the FBI. The federal raid on Leo's dental practice went down on a Thursday morning in late March, while Mia and Noah were safe at school. I watched it unfold on the local news from my living room. A surreal out-of-body experience as I saw my ex-husband being led away in handcuffs. My phone erupted. First Isabel, confirming it all went smoothly, then my mother. Chloe, this is just dreadful. Poor Mia and Noah seeing their father on television like that. Poor Mia and Noah were at Alex's house, blissfully unaware as I had arranged for them to be shielded from the immediate media storm. The children are fine, Mom. They're protected. But the scandal, Chloe, what will people think? Even now, her first thought was appearances. They'll think their father was a criminal who got what he deserved. You don't have to sound so happy about it. I wasn't happy my kid's father was a felon, but I was relieved that he was finally being held accountable. The real shock, the one that knocked the wind out of me, came later that afternoon. It was a call from Agent Miller, the FBI contact. Miss Peterson, we need to discuss something that has come to light during our interrogation of your ex-husband and our review of his communications. What is it? It appears certain members of your family have been in contact with Mr. Thompson, providing him with information about your activities, your new relationship, and your financial standing. The world tilted. What kind of information? Phone records show a consistent pattern of calls between your mother, Eleanor, and Mr. Thompson's personal cell phone over the last 4 months. Under questioning, he admitted that your mother was updating him on your social media, your relationship with Mr. Montgomery, and details about your new home. I sank onto my couch. This was a betrayal on a level I couldn't comprehend. Agent Miller. Why? Why would my mother be talking to my ex-husband? According to Mr. Thompson, your mother initiated contact. She was concerned you were becoming too independent. She believed that if he could regain custody of the children, you would be forced to reconcile with your family and rely on their support. My own mother, working with my criminal ex-husband to sabotage my life. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Alex. Kids are great. Lily is making them grilled cheese. Take all the time you need to process. And in that moment, I understood. The family I had been grieving, the relationships I had been trying to repair, they never really existed. I had been trying to win back the love of people who were incapable of giving it. But I had also found something real. I had built a true family with Mia, Noah, and now with Alex and Lily. A family based not on obligation, but on genuine love and support. My biological family had taught me exactly what a family shouldn't be. And by rejecting their twisted example, I had finally learned what a family could be. That night, I made a decision. I was going to tell them exactly what I knew, and then I was going to close the door on that chapter of my life, forever. The final confrontation took place in my house, on my terms. I invited my parents, Daniel and Sophia, for Sunday brunch in early April, telling them I wanted to clear the air after Leo's arrest. They arrived expecting a reconciliation, perhaps even an apology from me. Instead, they found Alex and the kids in the kitchen, along with Agent Miller, who had agreed to be present. "Chloe, what is all this?" my mother asked, her eyes darting nervously around the room. "This," I said, my voice calm and clear, "is the conversation we should have had 18 months ago. Please sit down. I had rehearsed this. I would not be emotional, I would be factual." Agent Miller stepped forward. "Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, I'm Agent Miller with the FBI. During our investigation into Leo Thompson's criminal enterprises, we discovered that Mrs. Eleanor Peterson was providing him with regular updates on Chloe's personal and financial life." My father's face went white. "Eleanor? What is she talking about?" My mother's composure finally shattered. I was just trying to help. Chloe was being so stubborn, and Leo seemed so worried about the children. "Mom," I said, my voice cutting through her excuses, "Leo was laundering money for organized crime. He was using the information you gave him to build a custody case so he could flee the country with my children." "I didn't know that." "You didn't know because you didn't want to know. You were so obsessed with proving I couldn't survive without you that you collaborated with a man who betrayed our entire family." Daniel tried to interject. "Chloe, that's not fair. Mom was just worried." Worried. She uninvited me from Thanksgiving to avoid gossip. She fed information to my abusive ex-husband. She was actively working against me. I turned to Sophia. "And you were complicit in all of it. Every whisper, every suggestion that I should just be more reasonable about his affair." "We love you, Chloe," Sophia said weakly. "Number, you love the idea of me. You love a version of me that causes you no inconvenience, a version that stays in a bad marriage so you don't have to be bothered." Alex stepped closer, his presence a silent wall of support at my back. "But here's what you never understood," I continued. "I didn't need your approval to rebuild my life. I didn't need your permission to succeed, and I certainly didn't need your validation to find love again." I gestured around my beautiful kitchen, where my children were laughing with Lily, where a federal agent stood as a testament to the truth, where Alex smiled at me with pure admiration. I built this life, not only without your help, but in spite of your opposition. My mother was openly sobbing now, but they were the tears of a queen who had just lost her kingdom. "What do you want from us, Chloe?" my father asked, his voice hollow. "I want you to understand that I don't need anything from you anymore. I wanted you to be my family. You chose to be my opponents. The choice was yours. So that's it? You're just cutting us off? I'm accepting the reality of who you've always been. I spent 35 years trying to earn a love that should have been a given. I'm done." As they prepared to leave, my mother made one last, desperate grab for control. "You will regret this, Chloe. Family is forever. One day you'll need us." I looked at the woman who had taught me that love was conditional, that loyalty was a weapon. "Mom, I already needed you, and you weren't there. The difference is, now I don't need you anymore." After they were gone, Alex found me on the patio watching the kids play. "How do you feel?" he asked softly. "Free," I said. And the truth of that one word washed over me. 18 months ago, I was a woman defined by everyone else. Now I was Chloe Peterson, a mother, a partner, a success. The family that had tried to break me had inadvertently set me free. They had forced me to become the woman I was always meant to be. And that woman, I realized, was magnificent. If this story resonated with you, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories about finding your strength and building the life you deserve. And always remember, sometimes the best family is the one you choose for yourself. End of story.